The letter arrived on a Tuesday, tattered and smudged, as if it had fought its way across continents to reach Ethan Caldwell's calloused hands. He stood in the dust of a forward operating base in Kandahar, the weight of 2 years in combat pressing against his chest. But it was the words scrawled in his younger brother's shaky handwriting that broke him. "They kicked me out, Ethan. I'm gay. I don't know where to go." Ethan, 27, a soldier with broad shoulders and eyes that had seen too much, felt the world tilt. His brother, Jamie, only 21, was the soft-hearted kid who'd once cried over a stray dog in their small Oregon town. The thought of him alone, cast out by their strict father, Richard, ignited a fire in Ethan's gut that no battlefield had ever kindled. He clutched the letter, his dog tags clinking against his chest, and vowed to get home. The journey back to America was a blur of military transports and sleepless nights, each mile pulling Ethan closer to Portland, where he'd grown up with Jamie in a house ruled by their father's iron will. Richard Caldwell, a retired mechanic and devout churchgoer, had always preached family above all, until, it seemed, family didn't fit his mold. Ethan's mother, Linda, had passed when Jamie was 10, leaving the brothers to navigate their father's rigid expectations alone. Ethan had enlisted at 19, seeking escape, but Jamie, sensitive, artistic Jamie, had stayed, always trying to please a man who couldn't be pleased. Portland greeted Ethan with rain and the familiar scent of pine. He stepped off the bus in his faded camouflage jacket, his duffel bag heavy with the ghosts of war. The city had changed in 2 years. New coffee shops, brighter streetlights, but the ache in his chest was timeless. He hadn't called ahead. He couldn't. Not until he found Jamie. The family home, a squat craftsman on the edge of town, looked smaller than he remembered. Richard answered the door, his face a map of hard lines and gray stubble. "Ethan," he said, voice flat, "you're back. Where's Jamie?" Ethan's tone was sharp, cutting through the damp air. Richard's jaw tightened. "He's gone. Made his choice." "His choice?" Ethan's fists clenched. "You threw him out." "He was living in sin," Richard spat. "I won't have that in my house." Ethan shoved past him, scanning the living room. Jamie's sketches, once taped to the walls, were gone. His brother's room was stripped bare. No clothes, no books, no trace of the kid who dreamed of art school. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. "Where is he, Dad?" Richard crossed his arms. "I don't know, and I don't care." The words landed like a grenade. Ethan turned, his boots heavy on the hardwood, and walked out. He didn't look back. The rain soaked him as he stood on the porch, pulling out his phone to call the only person who might know where Jamie was. Clara, their childhood friend, now 26 and running a small bookstore downtown. Clara's voice was warm but strained when she answered. "Ethan? Oh my God, you're home." She hesitated. He's been staying with me. He's not okay." "Tell me where," Ethan said, already moving. The bookstore, Pages and Pines, was tucked between a ramen shop and a thrift store, its windows glowing with fairy lights. Clara, with her cropped blonde hair and freckled face, met him at the door. She hugged him fiercely, her flannel shirt smelling faintly of coffee. "He's upstairs," she whispered. "He's been crashing on my couch. It's bad, Ethan." Upstairs, Jamie sat curled in a blanket, his thin frame swallowed by an oversized hoodie. His dark hair, longer now, fell over eyes that were red from crying. At 21, he looked both younger and older than Ethan remembered, fragile, but with a quiet defiance in his gaze. "Jamie," Ethan said, his voice breaking. Jamie's head snapped up. "Ethan?" He scrambled to his feet, the blanket falling as he threw himself into his brother's arms. Ethan held him tight, feeling the tremor in Jamie's shoulders, the weight of months apart and pain unspoken. "I'm here," Ethan murmured. "I'm not leaving you again." They sat, the rain drumming on the roof, as Jamie spilled the story. He'd come out to their father 6 months ago, hoping for acceptance. Instead, Richard had raged, called him an abomination, and given him an hour to pack. Jamie had wandered Portland's streets until Clara found him, half-starved and sleeping in a park. She'd taken him in, but Jamie was struggling, jobless, rejected by the art program he'd applied to, and haunted by their father's words. Ethan's heart twisted. He'd fought for freedom overseas, but his own brother had been stripped of it at home. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "We'll figure this out." That night, Ethan slept on Clara's floor, listening to Jamie's uneven breathing. He thought of the war, of the men he'd lost, and realized this was a different kind of battle, one for family, for love, for the right to be. He didn't know how to win it, but he'd be damned if he didn't try. The next morning, Ethan woke to the smell of coffee and the sight of Jamie sketching at the kitchen table. The drawing was of 2 figures standing on a cliff, hands clasped, the ocean stretching endless before them. Ethan's throat tightened. "Who's that?" he asked, pointing. Jamie blushed. "Just someone I met. His name's Leo." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Tell me about him." Jamie hesitated, then smiled, a small, real smile. "He's 24, works at the community center. He's kind, Ethan. Really kind. But I don't know if I'm ready. Not after everything." Ethan nodded, understanding more than he said. He'd seen love in war zones, fleeting and fragile, and he knew it could heal as much as it could hurt. "You don't have to rush," he said. "But don't hide who you are. Not for Dad. Not for anyone." Clara joined them, setting down mugs. "There's a pride event at the community center this weekend," she said. "Leo's helping organize it. You should both go." Ethan met Jamie's eyes, seeing the flicker of hope there. "What do you say, kid?" he asked. Jamie bit his lip, then nodded. "Okay, but only if you're with me." "Always," Ethan said, and meant it. The community center buzzed with color and sound, a riot of rainbow flags and laughter that spilled onto the Portland streets. Ethan, in a clean flannel and jeans, felt out of place among the vibrant crowd, but Jamie's nervous energy kept him grounded. His brother, in a borrowed graphic tee with a small rainbow pin, clung to Ethan's side, eyes darting like he expected judgment at every turn. "Relax," Ethan said, nudging him. "You belong here." Jamie gave a shaky smile. "I'm trying." They wove through stalls selling art and handmade jewelry, the air thick with the scent of food trucks. At the center of it all was Leo Martinez, 24, with warm brown eyes and auburn hair tied back in a loose bun. He stood at a booth, handing out flyers for a youth support group, his easy laugh drawing people in. Jamie froze when he saw him, his cheeks flushing. "That's him," Jamie whispered. Ethan sized Leo up, not out of suspicion but instinct. The guy had a quiet confidence, his rolled-up sleeves revealing a tattoo of a crescent moon on his forearm. When Leo spotted Jamie, his face lit up, and Ethan felt a pang of relief. This guy wasn't just kind, he was smitten. "Jamie," Leo called, waving them over. "You made it." Jamie stumbled through a greeting, and Ethan stepped in, offering a firm handshake. Ethan, Jamie's brother, just got back from deployment. Leo's eyes widened. "Wow, thank you for your service, and for being here with Jamie." His sincerity was disarming, and Ethan liked him instantly. The 3 talked, Leo sharing stories of organizing the event, Jamie loosening up with every laugh. Ethan watched his brother come alive, the weight of their father's rejection lifting, if only for a moment. But the crowd parted, and Ethan's heart sank as he saw a familiar figure. Richard, standing rigid near a coffee stand, his face a storm cloud. "Dad's here," Ethan muttered, stepping in front of Jamie. Richard approached, his voice low but venomous. "You're parading this sin in public now?" Jamie shrank, but Ethan squared his shoulders. "He's not hiding who he is, and you don't get to shame him for it." The argument drew eyes. Leo stepped forward, calm but firm. "This is a place for acceptance, sir. Maybe you should listen to your son instead of judging him." Richard's face reddened, but before he could retort, a woman in her 50s, Marla, the community center director, intervened. "Let's keep this peaceful," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Richard stormed off, leaving a heavy silence. Jamie's hands shook. Leo touched his arm, gentle. "You okay?" "Yeah," Jamie said, but his voice was small. Ethan pulled him aside, away from the crowd. "He doesn't get to ruin this for you," Ethan said fiercely. "You're stronger than his hate." Jamie nodded, tears brimming. I wanted him to see me, really see me." Ethan hugged him, wishing he could shield him from the world. "He will, or he'll lose us both." That night, back at Clara's, Jamie opened up about Leo. They'd met at an art workshop, bonding over shared dreams of creating something meaningful. Leo had grown up in foster care, fighting for his place as a queer Latino man, and his resilience inspired Jamie. Ethan listened, seeing the spark in his brother's eyes, and made a silent promise to protect it. The next day, Ethan took Jamie to a diner, hoping to rebuild some normalcy. Over pancakes, Jamie admitted he'd been too scared to apply for art school again, fearing more rejection. Ethan leaned forward, his soldier's resolve kicking in. "You're not giving up. I'll help you, whatever it takes." Jamie smiled, tentative but real. "You sound like Mom." The memory of their mother stung, but it also fueled Ethan. Linda had been the soft heart of their family, the one who'd encouraged Jamie's art and Ethan's dreams. If she were here, she'd fight for Jamie too. Ethan decided then to find a way to get Jamie back on his feet, starting with a job. Clara connected them with Marla, who offered Jamie a part-time role at the community center, teaching art to kids. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Ethan, meanwhile, took a job at a local garage, using his military-honed mechanical skills. The work was steady, grounding, but his nights were spent planning. How to get Jamie into art school, how to confront their father, how to make a home where Jamie could thrive. One evening, Leo stopped by Clara's with takeout, his easy grin lighting up the room. He and Jamie talked for hours, their laughter filling the small apartment. Ethan watched from the sidelines, a mix of pride and worry. Jamie was falling for Leo, and while Ethan trusted the guy, he knew love could complicate things. As the weeks passed, Jamie's confidence grew. He started sketching again, filling a notebook with vibrant designs. Leo was a constant presence, helping Jamie prepare his portfolio. But the shadow of their father loomed. Ethan knew a reckoning was coming, one that would test them all. Ethan's days fell into a rhythm. Mornings at the garage, afternoons helping Jamie with his portfolio, evenings at the community center watching his brother teach kids to paint. Jamie was blooming, his laughter louder, his sketches bolder. Leo was a big part of it, his steady presence a balm for Jamie's wounds. But Ethan couldn't shake the unease in his gut. Richard hadn't reached out, and silence from their father felt like a storm brewing. One rainy afternoon, Ethan found Jamie at the community center, staring at a blank canvas. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, wiping grease from his hands. Jamie sighed. "I got into the art program, but the tuition, I can't afford it." Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd been saving every penny, but it wasn't enough. "We'll figure it out," he said, though doubt gnawed at him. That night, Leo invited them to a small open mic event at a local cafe. Jamie was nervous but agreed to share a poem he'd written. The cafe was packed, its walls lined with local art. Leo sat beside Jamie, whispering encouragement as Jamie took the stage. His voice trembled at first, reading lines about love and loss, but it grew stronger, each word a defiance of their father's rejection. The crowd applauded, and Leo's proud smile lit up the room. Ethan clapped, his chest tight with pride, but his eyes caught a figure in the back. Richard, arms crossed, watching. Ethan's blood ran cold. He moved toward his father, ready to shield Jamie, but Richard raised a hand. "I just came to listen," he said gruffly, then left before Ethan could respond. The encounter shook Jamie. Back at Clara's, he paced, his hands twisting. Why was he there? What does he want? "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "But we don't owe him anything." Leo, sitting cross-legged on the couch, spoke softly. "Maybe he's starting to see you, Jamie. People can change." Ethan wanted to believe it, but he'd seen too much of his father's stubbornness. Still, Jamie's hope was fragile, and Ethan didn't want to crush it. "Let's focus on you," he said. "The art program. We'll find a way." The next day, Ethan visited a local veterans support group, hoping to find resources. There, he met Sam, a 30-year-old former Marine who ran a scholarship fund for queer youth. Sam, with a buzz cut and a warm laugh, listened to Ethan's story and promised to help. "Your brother sounds like he's got heart," Sam said. "We'll get him that tuition." Sam's fund came through with a partial scholarship, enough to cover half of Jamie's tuition. Ethan took on extra shifts at the garage, and Clara started a crowdfunding page that gained traction among the community center's network. Slowly, the pieces were coming together. But Richard's shadow lingered. One evening, Ethan found a note slipped under Clara's door. "I want to talk. Meet me at the house, Dad." Ethan showed it to Jamie, whose face paled. "You don't have to go," Ethan said. "I know," Jamie replied, "but I need to." They drove to the family home, the rain heavier now, blurring the windshield. Richard was waiting in the living room, his Bible open on the coffee table. He looked older, his hands trembling slightly. "I saw you at the cafe," he said to Jamie. "Your poem, it was good." Jamie blinked, caught off guard. "Thanks," he said cautiously. Richard's voice was low. "I don't understand your choices, but you're my son. I don't want to lose you." Ethan braced himself, expecting a catch, but Richard continued. "I've been talking to Pastor John. He says love is love, even if I don't get it. I am trying." Jamie's eyes welled up. "You threw me out, Dad. You called me a sin." "I was wrong," Richard said, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry." The words hung in the air, heavy and imperfect. Ethan watched Jamie, waiting for his lead. Jamie took a shaky breath. "I need time," he said, "but I want you in my life, if you can accept me." Richard nodded, tears in his eyes. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. Ethan felt a weight lift, though he knew the road ahead would be long. Back at Clara's, Jamie leaned against Leo, their hands intertwined. Ethan watched them, a quiet hope settling in his chest. For the first time, he believed they could build something new, a family not bound by blood alone, but by love. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of rebuilding. Jamie started art school, his days filled with classes and late-night sketches. Ethan saw the spark in his brother's eyes grow brighter, fueled by Leo's encouragement and the community center's support. But Richard's apology lingered like an unhealed wound, its sincerity untested. Ethan threw himself into work, saving for Jamie's tuition and his own future. The garage was a haven of routine, oil changes, tire rotations, the hum of engines grounding him. But his nights were restless, haunted by memories of war, and the fear that Jamie's newfound stability could crumble. One crisp October evening, Leo invited Ethan and Jamie to a bonfire at a coastal park. The event was a fundraiser for the community center, with music and food trucks lining the beach. Jamie, now more confident, brought his sketchbook, capturing the scene in quick, vivid strokes. Ethan watched him laugh with Leo, their shoulders brushing as they shared a blanket by the fire. "You're good for him," Ethan told Leo, tossing a stick into the flames. Leo smiled, his eyes reflecting the firelight. "He's good for me too. He's got this way of seeing the world, it's beautiful." Ethan nodded, feeling a brotherly protectiveness mixed with trust. Leo wasn't just a fling, he was becoming part of their family. But the moment was interrupted when Richard appeared, hesitating at the edge of the crowd. Jamie stiffened, and Ethan stood, ready to intervene. "I didn't come to fight," Richard said, hands raised. "I just wanted to see you both." Jamie's voice was steady. "You're here. That's something." They sat, an awkward trio by the fire. Richard spoke haltingly, sharing memories of their mother, of simpler times. Ethan watched Jamie listen, his guard lowering but not gone. It was progress, fragile and slow, but progress nonetheless. As winter approached, Jamie's art took on new depth. His final project was a mural for the community center, a vibrant depiction of Portland's diversity. Families, couples, individuals, all woven together. Leo helped him paint, their hands brushing as they worked. Ethan joined them one weekend, wielding a roller with military precision, and felt a sense of purpose he hadn't known since the army. But tension resurfaced when Richard offered to pay the rest of Jamie's tuition. Ethan was skeptical, fearing strings attached, but Jamie wanted to believe in their father's change. "He's trying," Jamie said. "I want to give him a chance." Ethan agreed, but insisted on meeting Richard first. They sat in a diner, the air thick with unspoken history. Richard admitted he'd been attending a support group for parents of queer kids, trying to understand. "I don't want to lose you both," he said. "I've already lost too much." Ethan saw the man behind the anger, a grieving widower, scared of change. "You hurt Jamie," Ethan said. "Prove you won't again." Richard nodded, his eyes weary but earnest. "I'm trying, son." The tuition money came through, no strings attached. Jamie cried when he heard, hugging Ethan so tightly it hurt. "We're doing this," Jamie said. "Together." Christmas brought a tentative reunion. Richard hosted a small dinner, just the three of them. The house felt different, less oppressive, with Jamie's sketches back on the walls. They ate, talked, even laughed, though the scars remained. Ethan watched Jamie, saw the strength in him, and knew they'd survived the worst. Spring arrived, painting Portland in shades of green and gold. Jamie's mural was unveiled at the community center, a crowd gathering to celebrate. Ethan stood beside Leo, watching Jamie beam as Marla praised his work. The mural was a masterpiece, colors swirling, faces alive with hope, a testament to resilience. Richard was there, quieter now, his presence no longer a threat. He approached Jamie after the ceremony, holding a small frame, a sketch Jamie had drawn as a kid, one Richard had kept all these years. "I'm proud of you," he said, voice thick. Jamie took the frame, tears falling, and hugged his father. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Ethan found his own peace in the months that followed. He enrolled in community college, studying mechanics with an eye toward opening his own shop. Leo and Jamie moved into a small apartment together, their love a quiet, steady force. Ethan visited often, their laughter filling the space where silence once lived. One evening, on a cliff overlooking the Pacific, Ethan watched Jamie and Leo stand hand in hand, the sunset casting them in gold. It was the scene from Jamie's sketch, come to life. Ethan felt his mother's presence in the wind, her love woven into this moment of healing. The journey hadn't been easy. War, loss, rejection had tested them all. But as Ethan looked at his brother, free and loved, he knew they'd fought for something worth keeping. Family wasn't just blood. It was the people who chose you, who stood by you, who saw you and stayed. Jamie turned, catching Ethan's eye, and smiled. "Thanks for coming home," he said. Ethan grinned, his heart full. "Always, kid."